Okay, welcome back to the channel. It was a very long time since I last did a tutorial about the LP2. Also because I think I covered more or less everything possible. But eventually now there is a wonderful new firmware available for the LP2, which is 2.65. And this is super cool, and I'm super happy to introduce you to this firmware because it has a very powerful new feature which up to now was only present in the LP1, the bigger unit, and that is Bounce. What is Bounce? Bounce, what it does is, as you saw a bit now in the intro, what I did was start in a loop, and then with Bounce I can take that loop, copy it in a new slot, and while I'm doing this copy process I can also start to overdub new material on top of that, so that I'm creating a totally new loop with a new length and also new content, etc, etc. On a way, this is very similar as the ADP or the Loupé multiply functions. But the difference is that in the LP2 and also the LP1, when you do a bounce, the copied material is not multiplied on the loop you are working on, you are on at that moment, like would happen in the EDP or in the Loupé, but that material is copied to a new loop. In the case of the LP2, it's the next available free track. While on the LP1 it always goes, if you are in loop 1 and all the others are free, it always goes to the last one available. So we start from 8 and 7, etc, etc, while here you go from 1, 2, 3 and 4, etc, etc. Okay. You have different type of bounce, one being the normal bounce, which is totally unquantized, and then you have two types of quantized, whereas quantized is not the right word, pay attention. You have the sync bounce and the MIDI sync bounce. The difference is that sync bounce will follow a loop which is set as a master clock source, and the MIDI syncs, it's kind of like the same, but that will react to an external incoming clock signal. So you can align that, you can do the bounce when, for example, when you have a clock coming from a drum machine. For the video we will just cover the bounce, the normal bounce and the sync bounce, plus the basic, and plus I will show you some advanced ideas you can also apply by yourself. So for the setup what we have is, of course, the LP2. Just notice here on top, this is an additional foot switch. I modified the unit by myself, and this allows me just to enter quickly the configuration menu. If you want, I can talk about that in another video, just drop a comment if you want to. And then on the side I have my MIDI controller. Now I upgraded to the MC6 because I found it more practical to have more functions available on one menu, and also I found it's more easy to navigate through all my banks and the stuff I need. So for this video I prepared a very special dedicated bouncing bank, and the function I have on this bank are the bounce, normal bounce, synced bounce. On the far left here we have a sustained bounce, so kind of like a momentary function. Then on the second row we have a delete function, a master function, so the set source clock, and then on the far left we have accept on the press, or if I hold and then release the select all tracks. Okay, so how does it work? We start with a normal bounce. Now we do some noises, maybe without the delay. Okay, let's do also about the bounce. Sorry, before I forget, go and check Andre Lafosse's video, because he also did back then a video about the bounce function, but in the LP1. Also check him out, because maybe it's less chaotic than I do. Anyhow, we start with some beats, kind of, with the guitar. Okay, this is my starting beat. Now it's just one beat. I could use the multiply to double it, triple it, etc, etc, but I can also use the bounce. And now it's so. When I press the bounce, I will start the process of the bouncing, and when I press once again bounce, I will close the bouncing process. Now you see loop 1 is stopped, and now I go to loop 2 and we see this is the new material, and the looper, the loop length is also longer because I recorded additional material which would not have space in the original loop. And now it's super cool because you see we still have on slot 1 the original copy of this loop, and for example now what I can do is do all tracks and push play stop. And now we go back to the loop 1, but I can switch between loop 1 and 2. No? The cool thing of bounce, now let me do some delete everywhere. Okay. The cool thing of the normal bounce is that it allows me also to do totally free, let's say, bouncing, so unrelated to the length of the original loop. For example, let's do something very, very extreme. And also super cool, while you are bouncing you can do anything possible, so also apply effects, kind of like doing this forward reverse pinpoint games, for example. Now my new loop is on loop 2, and now I can just do something even more tragic about to this one. We do a very short snippet, but of course I can develop this one. And so I can, iteration after iteration, change the evolution of my looper by just relooping and bouncing and copying small snippets and overdub. What I noticed that you have to pay a bit of attention with this bounce method, because the loop can get very busy quite fast, and also in between each iteration maybe you would like to apply a bit of feedback just to go a bit down also with the overall volume of the loops. Now you see, now I did 3 bounces, and now I have all 4 of my slots which are full. But on a way it's cool because I can go back to my original material, and for example with the accept, now I do accept on loop 2, and now I do a play A. It means I will stop loop 1 and start 3 and 4. Oops, what? Okay, sorry. So you see, actually it's quite cool because you can generate quite fast new material, different material, and also if you do some with the accept and all, or by grouping the tracks together, you can really start mixing and DJing around all the tracks. Of course, this has a bit of a problem that I saw that I need time to delete some loops, so that I still have at least one loop free in case I need to do something else. No? But it's super cool because, for example, what you can do is also, and now we go to the Synched Bounce. Before we do some examples, I will talk 2-3 things about the Synched Bounce. The Synched Bounce is super cool because, okay, Now I say loop 1 is the master. Let's keep it like that. Now I go to loop 2, delete this one, thank you. Okay, everything's deleted otherwise. Okay, now I do a synced loop 2 to loop 1. Okay, now I sync bounce this one, and now let's check what happens when I close again with sync bounce the loop. This loop now, loop 3 is synced to loop 1, but I have the problem, there is always this kind of like this void, because as soon as I say again stop to sync bounce with sync bounce, it will just generate enough length to close it. Could be a nice effect, but I found it a bit not weak, but it's a bit strange. So I find it a workaround actually. And the trick to have really flawless and seamless bounced synced loops, it's like this. Now we are back to loop 1, to loop 2, the one doing the beat, and now the trick is that you do sync bounce. And now when I close, instead of doing the sync bounce, I do a rec, and then as fast as possible a play, so that I can stop loop 2, and now we have loop 3 will go into overdub, but now everything is in sync, and I don't have these gaps. And now it's very cool, because for example I go to loop 1, I do an accept, play stop, so I can bounce between the original loop 2 and loop 3 with the additional material, or also I can do something more crazy, kind of like remix, let's say a kind of a remix. We put the loop 3 in reverse, and now I go to loop 1, I do accept, and then with play stop, so I can kind of like momentary switch between 2 and 3 and create these abstract scenarios, let's say. Okay, so as you see, super powerful, and since I liked it so much, I started also to generate something more special and customize it on my needs, and this would be the last function, which is the sustained bounce or momentary bounce. This takes a lot of inspiration from how Multiplies works on the EDP, and in a free manner, so no synchronized free running. And I will put maybe somewhere in the video the series of commands I send while pressing the foot switch and then releasing it, because I do a trick, and the trick is that when I finish to bounce my track, the new track where the bouncing materials will go into overdub. So if I use some reverse or delays, I can have the codas of these effects also being recorded on the new material. And also, to be quick and having always space available for new loops, I delete the original loop. And this, remember, is totally destructive process, and I can't go back to my original material. That's a bit the downside of the bounce in the LP2. Well, for example, on the Loupé, when you do these multiplies, you can also anyhow with the undo go back to the original material, but it's a downside that I can close an eye on. So I'm super happy about it, and super cool that now we have this into the LP2 as well. So let's do some sustained momentary bouncing now. Okay, we put it in reverse because it's nice to have it in reverse. Now it's cool because actually with this momentary bounce I can do very short snippets of the original loop. And now we continue. As you see, my loop 1 is deleted because of the commands and sending when releasing the foot switch. And so you see I can really quickly develop and shift my loops with this method. Of course, now you saw, since I'm deleting the original previous loop, I have to go back to loop 1, because now it's doing a ping pong game between loop 1 and loop 2. Of course, for example, in this very case, I could, for example, change my switch 1, which effect 1, which is the next track. It's programmed to the next track. I can shift that to the select track, and now I'm doing only this ping pong between 1 and 2, so it's a bit quicker than to jump between the loops. But as you can see, super powerful. It allows you now to really create this EDP style and Loupé style multiplication or division of the original loop. And well, thank you, Bob, for me it's always Christmas when I got these new firmware releases from Bob for the LP2. And well, take care and see you soon. Bye bye.